Good day. Welcome to the 2021 General Election Candidates Forum for Kansas City, Kansas and Wyandotte County. I am Merle Bland with Business West. Business West and Kansas City, Kansas Community College are the sponsors of this forum. Let me introduce the panelists who will ask questions of the candidates. They are Mary Rupert, the editor of the Wyandotte Daily Online, J.D. Rios, a retired administrator with the Kansas City, Kansas School District, and Elnora Jefferson, a community volunteer with Groundwork Northeast Revitalization Group. Candidates will have 2 minutes to make opening remarks. Then the panelists will ask questions. Candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. Panelists will have the right to ask follow-up questions. Candidates will have 1 minute for closing remarks. The questions that the candidates are asking are known only to them. Please understand this is not a debate. Candidates are urged to focus on the issues. The forum is being taped for playback on the college's public access channels and YouTube. The first two candidates are running for mayor and chief executive officer of Kansas City, Kansas and Wyandotte County. First, we will hear opening remarks from Mayor Alvey. Mayor.
Thank you. I want to thank all the panelists for sponsoring this. This has always been a great forum. I think it really represents well Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County. I'd just like to begin by saying to all those watching that I've been honored to serve as mayor these past 3.5 years. And I look forward to the progress we can continue to make in this county. I'd like to highlight some of the challenges we face in the county. As everyone, the fundamental problem of local government especially is to try and provide quality services, more and better services to residents and businesses without overburdening on taxation. That is a difficult balance. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with people who start with, hey, Mayor, we need the curbs and fixed. We need our sidewalks fixed. We've got a problem with stormwater. Mayor, we need more traffic patrols by police. Oh, and by the way, lower my taxes. And I have to say, I agree with them all counts. We need more of those things and we need lower taxes. And so again, the pathway forward is to continue to bring economic development to our county. We're focusing on, obviously, the big projects that we've had out west. Those are very helpful. You know, we can look at the legends and see the $36 million a year in tax revenues that comes in to the state and local governments. It's been very helpful to unified government to support services that go out throughout the entire county, but we have to do more throughout the rest of the county. And so I've been really focused in on neighborhood improvement, infill housing. We have a great opportunity to do that. If you go to any of my state of the government addresses, you can see over the past several years, I've been focusing intently on what are those strategies we need to put in place to make sure that we can redevelop those parts of our county that have experienced disinvestment, depopulation over the years. I believe we have some really good strategies already in place, and there's more to come. But I'm very, very happy, again, very proud of what our community did during COVID. You know, I went to bed each night with a clear conscience, believing that we had done what we could do to prevent the spread of COVID in our county, even though there was significant opposition to some of the measures. But we engaged the entire community, brought them forward to help them problem solve, give them information, get information from them and spread that out. And of course, we know that that battle is not yet over. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will turn to the opponent, Tyrone Garner. Tyrone.
Hello, and thank you. Appreciate you all for throwing this this debate, and I'm honored to be here and being part of it. So thank you so very much, and thank you to everyone that is viewing. Just know that your vote does matter. My name is Tyrone Garner. Again, I'm running for mayor of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. Retired deputy chief, 32 years, U.S. Army veteran, Leadership 2000 graduate. I'm a former community college board of trustee member, where I was also the chair of the finance committee. I was also a former governor appointed CAC commissioner, former ad hoc group against crime board member, and a former Kansas City, Kansas Housing Authority board member, just to name a few. I'm running because I was asked by people in Wyandotte County that got tired of politics as usual, broken promises, not seeing development realized in the areas that have been disinvested. And they asked me to run. And I had to pray about it. And after praying about it, it was an easy yes, because I've gone to a lot of group meetings over the years, especially as an executive in the police department, where I had to work with staff in unified government on a variety of issues, including budgets and personnel and union issues, as well as going out in the community and finding real problems to real solution and finding real solutions to the problems that affected the lives of real people every day. And these people knew that I had a track record of success. They've worked with me. They've seen that I'm committed to excellence and that I'm a results-driven type of person. I'm also a person that believes in the power of strong relationships and collaborations to get things done. My campaign, you're more than welcome to go to garnerformayor.com and see it for yourself. It is a people's-derived platform. It's not something I came up with specifically. These are the things that when I asked people in the community what they wanted to see from their mayor and their unified government, they gave me this laundry list of things that they said they'd like to see that they feel are missing. The first one is visionary. They want someone that is going to foster unity, opportunity, and hope, and that's something that I've always been committed to. They want engaged leadership. They want to know who their mayor is. I can't tell you how many people that I've talked to that were surprised to know that the current mayor is our mayor, because a lot of them thought that Mayor Lucas was the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas, and I had to correct them. They want fiscal responsibility, and we're committed to that. Streamlining government and offering real tax relief that's equitable development, investment in the disinvested areas of Wyandotte County, public safety reforms and enhancements, especially when you talk about our EMTs and our firefighters and our police officers that are out here serving every day. Infrastructure improvements when you talk about streets, roads, sidewalks, bridges, and parks, and a responsible strategic COVID-19 recovery plan that focuses on the issues that are coming to bear upon us pretty rapidly. And so, again, thank you, and I'm excited, and hopefully I can answer the questions in a way that will resonate with people, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Now we will turn to Mary Rupert, who will ask questions of Mayor Alvey. Mary?
Hi, I realize you might have touched on this a little bit already, but here it is again. If you're elected, what is your position on property taxes and the pilot fee?
Right. So traditionally, Wyandotte County has had high property taxes. That has been reduced over the years, a 6 mil decrease over the years. And so we went from being the highest property tax entity in the state of Kansas, first class cities, to now being 15th out of 25. So that's an improvement. The pilot is high. When I was on the Board of Public Utilities, that was a real concern. But as most people would recall, I think, at the economic emergency of the downfall of 2008, the city is short of funds, already did furloughs, did layoffs, cut services, did not want to cut any further. And so they increased the pilot to generate more revenues to provide the basic services that our community needs and deserves. So the strategy, again, has got to be more economic development. If you look at the trajectory of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas over the years, those decades of disinvestment and depopulation has really put a hole in our tax base. And so we've got to fill that hole back up. And so the development that's happened out west is very helpful. Again, it did it set the floor for us in terms of our revenues, but we have so many more opportunities. And I will point out that there's been a lot of development on the east side of our community. You talked about the new Merck downtown, KU coming into the old EPA building. There are new businesses popping up on Minnesota Avenue, small businesses along 5th Street and 6th Street, the Boulevard Lofts, the Rock Island Bridge, the new Menards at I-35 and 18th Street, new businesses in Argentine where I hang out a lot. And so I will say that those things are happening, and more of that is going to happen. But the long-term strategy has got to be to continue to broaden the tax base.
Okay. Tyrone, your response to that question.
Well, my response is that we've had 4 years of failed leadership in that regard. Promises were made and promises have not been kept. I've talked to people throughout this county, and not just in the Northeast, literally with tears in their eyes when they're being sold that their property values have increased, and that's supposed to be a great thing. And it sounds good until you open your tax bill. And your tax bill paints a different story. When you talk about the adverse effect that it has, that the property taxes and our BPU bills have on our seniors and our hardworking families that are trying to just struggle to make ends meet, it's heartbreaking. And I've literally talked to people with tears in their eyes. We can do a better job of lowering the BPU pilot. My proposal is to lower it, at least a proposal to lower 2% every year for the first 4 years and take it off the BPU bill. So the BPU bill can be a more reflective and adequate utility bill. The mayor had a chance on September 9th to be a leader and lead this community forward in reducing the mill levy. The property values have increased. There's about $10 million in excesses that have been realized, not including the ARPA funds that were there. An opportunity was there to lower the mill levy to give some semblance of tax relief to everyday citizens. It was not done. And to me, that's a failure of leadership. And that's the biggest thing when you're talking about lowering taxes for everyday working families. You have to have leadership in place that is going to put people first and people over politics, and then also put people over profits. And I mean that sincerely. When you talk about we've given tax abatements to huge corporations that pay zero property taxes and have gotten huge infrastructure giveaways on the back of hardworking taxpayer and our kids that go to school. Yes, we do need to broaden our tax base and bring in business, but these people that come into town that don't really need the money, we need to make sure that we have responsible incentives and developments where everyone can share and broaden that tax base responsibly. And that just hasn't been done in a way that's been realized. Want to talk east of 635? You don't have to look very far if you drive through there to see the economic segregation that continues to occur when you talk about disenfranchised, disinvested areas of Wyandotte County. And I can tell you the folks out in Bonner Springs are hot and they're livid because their taxes continue to go up and they have no one really working hard for them to make sure that their interests are being met in that regard. That's what I plan to bring when you talk about engaged leadership. They know we can do better. They know that this campaign knows they deserve better, and I'm committed to giving them better. People are working hard every day. They don't want to work any harder than their mayor and their unified government is willing to work for them. And that's the problem. And that's the change that people that support me want to see. And I'm committed to that.
Okay. The next panelist will be J.D. Rios, and he will ask a question of Tyrone Garner. J.D.?
All right, I'm on now.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. Again,
right.
Thank you, gentlemen, for participating in this forum. And I'm honored to be able to ask you a few questions this afternoon. First question, do the issues of police confidence in communities of color concern you? And what do you see is your role in addressing past indiscretions and lack of transparency in possible investigations of police conduct?
Tyrone, your response.
My response is simple. I worked in internal affairs for almost 5 years as a young police detective. I was given cases by the department, and I didn't make any friends as an internal affairs detective in that police culture because I did my part to make sure that I left no stone unturned. I didn't give accused officers a pass. And a lot of those officers were severely disciplined, and some were even fired as a result of my investigations. When I moved up in management within the unified government, I can't tell you how many officers were disciplined as a result of me becoming aware of things that they were doing that either violated policies or did not reflect the values of this community. I was known for being someone that expected excellence, and I was also known that you cannot do things under my watch and think that I'm just going to sweep it under the rug. But again, I wasn't the chief, definitely not the mayor. And as I moved up to the deputy chief position, I stood firm with Mark Dupree with his call for a conviction integrity unit, stood firm in supporting Barack Obama's 21st century policing initiative against a culture that fought against that vehemently. And I didn't make a lot of friends in that police department on my stance. And that culture, and I question the mayor in that regard. When Mark Dupree came and wanted some things done with his conviction and integrity unit, I think we could have moved a lot quicker. We could have moved a lot faster, and we needed to. When you talk about building trust, 21st century policing is the key. I have complete, total confidence in our new police chief, Carl Oakman, and his 8-point plan. And I believe he's going to bring the reforms and right some of the wrongs that have been inherent in the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department for far too long. But again, you've had a lot of chiefs over the years, a lot of deputy chiefs over the years. And I believe I was a deputy chief for a short period of time. And yes, there's distrust in communities of color, and there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And I say that respectfully in that regard. We have a lot of good police officers, and I don't want the community to think otherwise. It's that 1% that I'm talking about. We need to get those bad officers out of those uniforms and make sure on the front end we hire the right officers so we don't have to get the bad officers out on the back end. And I'm going to support the chief. I'm going to support the DA if I'm elected, and I'll support our sheriff because they're going to need the personnel, the resources, and the commitment from the elected officials to keep this community safe. If you want a great Wyandotte County, it starts with public safety. And that's my position, and that's where I'll continue to stand. I served 32 years honorably, proudly, and I'm going to continue to support the men and women that keep this community safe.
Okay. Mayor, your response.
Yeah, thank you. No, absolutely. It's very important for our community to continue to develop trust with our police and our law enforcement. But it's not just law enforcement, it's in fact the entire criminal justice system. Someone who's had a bad experience, let's say in the jail, they will tend to assign that to the entire criminal justice system, whether it's sheriff's deputies or police officers. If they have a bad experience in the prosecutor's office, they will then extend that to the jail and to others. This is a point that Mr. Dupree made at our task force on police and community relations. And I'm very proud of the work of the task force. This is a diverse group of residents and citizens in Wyandotte County, young, old, African-American, Hispanic, white, varying, represent everybody in the community. And what we did is we took a very deep dive, and are taking a very deep dive, it's not over yet, into any policies or procedures within our police department or law enforcement in general that creates issues or that might lead to the same kind of thing happening to Mr. Floyd as that would happen here. We don't want that to happen. And so we did a thoroughgoing review. And as we found out, in fact, the 21st century policing, most of those recommendations were already implemented. I was at that time had received a lot of emails from a group that was advocating for 8 can't wait. I would recommend you go to the police department website. They'll have a link to that. And we found in the task force that in fact, we had already implemented 7 of those. And during the course of the task force, in fact, Interim Chief York implemented the last of those 8. So I'm very proud of that. And we've really tried to reach out to the community engaged, let them bring their concerns, their stories to us. We have to, Chief Oakman, I think, says it well. He says, if you're a criminal, what you want to see is the community coming out against you, but not the police. Or you want to see the police coming out against you, but not the community. What you do not want to see is the police and community together coming out against you. And our community policing and so many other parts of what we're doing, programs, the Police Athletic League, so many other programs are really engaging the community. And I think ultimately, we still have to continue to work on diversity in our force. It needs to reflect the diversity of our community. And I will say again that Chief Oakman has implemented a Hispanic liaison officer in order to help the community feel comfortable coming to the police with their problems, and also to provide them protection from gang activities and other kind of criminal elements that would try to coerce them. So he's identified that as a problem, and he's already addressing it. So this is a continuing thing. This task force that I've convened, the next topic will be restorative justice. What are those things we can do that are not necessarily legal law enforcement itself, but really help heal the crime itself, the criminal and the victim coming together to resolve the issues. It can be transformative for all.
Our next panelist with a question will be Elnora Jefferson. Elnora, and you will ask your questions of the mayor first.
Okay, thank you. It's good afternoon to the mayor candidates. And I want to thank Mayor Alvey for the support that he's given during his term to Groundwork NRG, one of the 8 NBRs in our county. And I would hope that we would get the same type of support going forward from the mayor's office in the next term. The question that I have, it has to do with the investment. Certainly it's understandable that that we want to build the economic base of the Northeast, especially compared to what we're experiencing out at the Legends. However, we do know that the Northeast has suffered from programs, both from the federal, state, and the local level that have exacerbated the vacant lots and the depletion of resources that we see. And so the assets that's being used, the land bank and other UG land assets, are coming at the expense of the people who stayed, the expense of the people who have withstood the drug traffic, the expense of the people who have gone without resources, the expense of the people who have not had the opportunity to increase their wealth. So the question is, how does the current infill project, how does that affect and correct the historical and ongoing trauma that these people have experienced from redlining, urban renewal, and local government programs? Thank you.
Your response, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Elnora. Right, so it's interesting because I think what we're trying to say is if we're going to grow the tax base, then that means that property values should rise. The problem with the redlining and the disinvestment was in fact because property values were declining. You could not, if you bought a house for $100,000 and then over the course of a few years, that property would decline in value to $90,000. If you need to make a repair, get a loan out to make a repair, you could not possibly get that loan out. It was harder to borrow money to buy a house. And so what we had is the blight. In other words, the houses could not get the money they needed to reinvest. I feel like I'm always putting money into my house and I'm able to borrow. If you can't, if my property value continues to decline, then I can't borrow the money to make those repairs. And so I think long-term, what we've got to do is focus in on, first of all, those folks who have been, as you said, weathered the storm, especially those on fixed income and the elderly. We're moving forward with a piece of legislation at the State House that would provide some relief for those who may be affected by rising property values. We also at the local level can do a similar kind of thing. We do have in place what the good news is, when I've read studies about actually investment in areas that were previously redlined and disinvested, and as the development came in, it actually raised the level of wealth of the people who were there. So now if you have a house, you paid $50,000 for it, and now the house is coming in because the demand for the housing is there, the market is driving that up. That's a good thing. That means it's attractive. People want to move in. People like the neighborhood. They want to be there. That's a good thing. But what we've got to do is be able to provide relief at that top end for those folks who really are in a position where, you know, as their tax bills go up, they're going to have a difficult time sustaining that. So those are the kinds of things that have to be a part of this. When I talk about this infill housing, it's not just about bringing housing. It's really about community development. You know, it's really about making a community that we're proud of, that's beautiful, that's sustainable for generations, that's environmentally sustainable. All those things that are important to groundwork is really what we need to be doing. And so ultimately, what we want to do is to make sure that the strategies we put in place for sustainable neighborhoods, first of all, activate the Northeast Master Plan. The master plan is not a list of things that unified government can come in and tick off and spend money to build all the houses. The market has to come in. We've got to show developers, and they're there and they see it and they want to come in, that they can come in and they can make money. They don't have to hit a home run, but they have to know that their money invested is going to pay off. That's going to improve the neighborhoods. What I saw in Argentine, when I grew up, the west side of Argentine was always the white, and the east side was the Mexican side. the whites moved out. When I came after studying outside of the town, came back in the 90s and saw the immigrants come in and buy those houses in Argentine and put their sweat equity into it. They raised the property values up, but they improved the neighborhood. And now they are supporting small businesses that had gone by the wayside in Argentine. So that's really the process. It's got to be community development. It's not just dollars, it's got to be community development. Thank you.
Tyrone, your response.
Well, I mean, the concept is good. I think where we're failing at is I have not heard yet of a comprehensive strategy. We need to make sure that when we're doing these things, that we have a strategy in place to address the housing needs at all income levels. Not just affordable housing, but housing that is affordable. When you talk about the cost of not just housing, but even rental properties, there should be a strategic plan and not just haphazardly infill housing with some of the fee incentives that are there. I would actually like to see an expansion of the Neighborhood Revitalization Act to where we expand that to where any house is given a considerable tax abatement for a long period of time, especially east of 635. And I want to work with the neighborhood groups. I want to work with developers. And trust me, I've talked to developers. They are ready to come into Wyandotte County and do massive developments. The problem they tell me is the bureaucracy. Sometimes there's disagreements with staff at the unified government that they just can't seem to get around. No return phone calls, the fees, building permits, and then we've got to look at a way that we can streamline getting a developer from a vision to completion. It just takes too long, and from what I've been told from some developers, to just get something done in Wyandotte County. They'd like a streamlined progress to where they can get things done, get through BPU, get through the planning stages, get through the permit stages. And I'd like to see just across the board, and not just in Kansas City, Kansas, but in Wyandotte County, period, us take a better look at this infill housing program and have a conversation with Bonner Springs and Edwardsville as well. They are a part of Wyandotte County, and we need to make them feel like they're a part of Wyandotte County. And we can expand some of these incentives and things to them as well. But when you talk about the Northeast area, the disinvestment that has been there for far too long, and you look at our current mayor and the promises he made 4 years ago, nothing has been realized to the satisfaction of the people that I spoke to in the Northeast. People should not have to beg for a grocery store. They should have swings at work. They should not have a pool that is closed. And I stood out there with those kids when it was 95 degrees in hot weather, and we pay people over $100,000 a year to make good decisions for Wyandotte County. And you can say the pandemic was there. That's fine. But when I was in government and when I was in leadership, we planned accordingly for those contingencies. There are kids that I've talked to. There were adults that I've talked to that said they still were lifeguards, or kids that wanted to be lifeguards, and had they been told, they would have stepped up to the plate to get the training if we could have found those people to do that. Even moving forward, taking it out of the UG and a proposal to put it in the hands of a private person that cannot guarantee that the pool will still be open, that's irresponsible. And that was the last information that I had. We can do better for Wyandotte County. We can do better for our neighborhoods, and we can do better for our community. The mayor likes to talk about neighborhoods up. Well, I can tell you, people are hitting rock bottom with the taxes and the BPU bills. And the only thing going up are taxes and BPU bills. We've got to do better. It starts with leadership. It starts with vision. And it starts with someone that is going to move himself from the 9th floor of City Hall and out in the community and make sure that the needs of the community are being met equitably, not just to the connected, you've heard me say it, the privileged, the powerful, or the wealthy, but to everybody. Everybody has value in Wyandotte County, and Tyrone Garner is going to make a value every person in Wyandotte County and make sure that I do my part to ensure that the needs of everyday people are being met in our neighborhoods. And I just go back. If you look at all the promises made 4 years ago or almost 4 years ago from our current mayor, I challenge anyone to look and ask themselves, are they better off now, tax-wise, neighborhood-wise, community-wise, than they were when our current mayor took office? And the people I've talked to and the people that stand with me and support me say absolutely know, and they want better.
Okay, now we'll move to closing remarks. Candidates will have 1 minute, and we'll start with Tyrone. Tyrone, you have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you again so much. And I'm just going to reiterate that. My closing statement is simple. We are at the crossroads of things in Wyandotte County. People, again, they want better. We know they deserve better. I'm here running to give this community better. You'll find for me somebody that is going to be truthful, transparent, and engaged with Wyandotte County. That's going to build a strong working relationship, not just with our neighborhoods, but also with our commission, and hold staff accountable to the will of the elected officials and to the values of our people. Again, my simple message is, ask yourself if you are better off today than you were 4 years ago. You're going to hear about where we're at. Let's look at where we should be. And the people I've talked to that support this campaign know that we should be doing a lot better, and we should be further along as a county than we are. So thank you for your time, and God bless you. And again, I ask for your vote on or before November 2nd, 2021. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor?
Thank you. Well, I'm going to again lead with this, that throughout my entire time as mayor, we have taken an honest, straightforward look at every challenge that has confronted us. And I am proud of the work that we have done. And certainly we have not been able to achieve all the things we would like to achieve. That is a long-term process. You know, we had 60 years of disinvestment. We have seen investment. It is coming back. It is growing. You know, some of the unrealistic statements made by Mr. Garner, that he's going to reduce the pilot which will reduce revenues to the unified government by 32 million. You cannot invest in neighborhoods, in streets and parks, in our stormwater, and all those services that he says we need to have more of, and reduce by 32 million the amount of money that amount of revenues the unified government has. I've taken an honest, straightforward look. I know the problem. We have to reduce the tax burden. We have to improve services. We have to be strategic and have a strategy. We are developing the strategy, and we are going to continue to grow this county. I've shown it, and we're going to continue to do it.
Thank you for both. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.